Welcome to another edition of How to Build Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Khleif, and I am absolutely thrilled you're here, and you guys are going to just absolutely love the guest we have on the show today. In fact, it's his second time on the show. He was actually episode number 34, and if you don't know who he is, you're really not paying much attention on iTunes, because he's got an absolutely fantastic podcast. In fact, it's the longest running daily real estate podcast on the planet. His name's Joe Fairless, and it was kind of cool. I was at a Tony Robbins event, and we were both sitting in the VIP section, and I look over, and there's Joe Fairless. And so we got to actually meet in person at that event, which was really cool. And we were like, hey, you know what? We need to get back on each other's shows. And here we are, my friend. Welcome back, brother.
Thanks a lot. Looking forward to our conversation, and great catching up with you again.
Yeah, likewise. So just to enhance your bio, Joe, it's amazing what you've done since we first talked. I mean, you're now controlling over $265 million worth of real estate. I know you weren't anywhere near that number when we spoke the last time. And you've got that fantastic podcast. You're the managing principal of Ashcroft Capital, and I know that you've done lots of syndications, and also love the fact that you've got a couple of volumes of your book, the best real estate investing advice ever. But what's cool about it is you give all the profits to junior achievement, which I just think is absolutely awesome. Anyway, so let's refresh my listeners' memory with a little bit of your background and what you're up to these days, and what's your focus?
Sure. Well, I mean, ultimately, my focus is apartment investing, apartment community investing, and there are a couple different things related to that I do. A little bit about my background is that I am from Texas. I went to school at Texas Tech University, moved up to New York City out of college, lived in New York City for 10 years, climbed the corporate ladder relatively quickly. My major was advertising, so I was the youngest vice president of a New York City advertising agency. And I didn't start out that way, by the way. I was making about $30,000. Or no, I was making $30,000 when I got started in New York City. My paycheck was about
$700. That didn't even pay rent, did it?
Yeah, my paycheck was $700 and some dollars. My rent was, I think, $750.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was a little tight, especially with my student loans. I had like $19,000 worth of student loans too. So all sorts of resourcefulness taking place at that time. And then I eventually, made more money, climbed the corporate ladder. Along the way, learned about investing, and then learned about real estate investing. And one book that was really helpful for me was Investing for Dummies. They talk about the three different ways that you can invest. One is real estate, two is stocks, bonds, and three is investing in LLCs. So ended up choosing real estate, and then bought my first house in October of 2009.
Oh, perfect timing.
Yeah, perfect timing. I was just lucky. That was it. Because I didn't have any money before then.
Right.
So bought my first house in October 2009, and then left the advertising world, and then ended up forming Ashcroft Capital with my business partner, Frank. And, as you mentioned, we buy apartment communities. We have about 3,000 units, all of them in Texas. And I don't know where we were at the time when you and I had our conversation.
I don't think you were even halfway that big yet.
Yeah.
My recollection, I think I would have remembered. So, I mean, you've done a lot in the last year and a half, 2 years. Was that an accurate statement?
Yeah. A lot's been accomplished in the last couple of years.
Right. Awesome, brother. Awesome. So all in Texas. And I know that, you do a lot of syndication. I think I had one of your equity raisers, his name's escaping me, David. David
Yep.
on the show here, a good guy, and talked about how he raises money and brings money to other people's syndications. He added a ton of value, and I know that he does a lot of work with you. But let's kind of let's see what we can do to add value to my listeners with maybe some specific nuances of your journey. In fact, one question that I know I didn't ask you the last time is, so many people think that success is easy, that it's just a smooth ride and everything goes beautifully. And let's talk about some of the seminars. I use that word for failure. Some of the hiccups, some of the speed bumps that you've encountered, and maybe you can impart some wisdom as to what happened and maybe help people prevent that from happening, or what to do if it happens.
And one benefit I had with my journey, or I've had with my journey, is that I started with single families. And that allowed me to have some training wheels before I was riding by myself. Right. And one thing that happened with my single families that did not go well is a purchase of my fourth property. So I bought 4 homes prior to buying apartment communities and partnering with investors. Homes 1 through 3, great stuff. They make $250 a month. And until someone moves out, and then it's $5,000 and it wipes away the profit for the whole year and a half or 2 years, which is why I scaled up. And
right.
We've talked about that offline before and on my show. But time is on my side, paying down the mortgage, whatever. Those three are fine. I still got them. But the fourth is a different story. And the lessons I learned on the fourth, I applied towards apartment investing. So on the fourth house, I'm living in New York City. I'm buying in Dallas, Fort Worth, where I'm from. So I'm buying remotely. And I came across a wholesaler who shared a property with me. I was pretty much, I didn't have any cash to invest, but I had been approved by American Airlines Credit Union for a $40,000 line of credit. So I was presented this property by the wholesaler, and it was $35,000. And I thought, okay, that's great, because that's $5,000 less than what I have from a line of credit. And he mentioned in the email that it would cost approximately $5,000 to get it completely up to speed. Yeah, right. what needed to be done. And I thought, perfect, $40K. I got $40K line of credit. I'm good. So I buy the house, $40,000 or $35,000, and I make a whole lot of mistakes on this place. One is, to do those fixes, I ended up hiring a good friend's dad to do the work. And what I realized afterwards is that was the only work that they actually had to do at the time. So I was their only project that they were working on. And what that did is that extended the $5,000 from to $15,000 because of the amount of time that it took. Plus, I think there were some fishy things going on. And fast forward about 8 more years to today, it clearly some things are happening, and that person has gotten into some trouble. So I hired the wrong contractor. Perhaps the lesson there is, be careful if you hire family friends, because then when you mix friends and business, it can be tough to separate the two if things don't go well. So that's number one. Number two is, I had zero experience overseeing a project like that. No, it wasn't supposed to be a lot of work, but it ended up being more time and more work. So number two is, if you don't have that experience, then I suggest being closer to the property so that you can check in on it, versus me being in New York City and the property being in Fort Worth, Texas. So that's number two. And number three is, I just didn't do my research on the market, even though, my dad lived 2 miles away. So I should have known this, but I didn't. And perhaps because it was so close to an area I thought I was familiar with, I didn't do the due diligence that I did on the previous 3 homes. But when I invested $15,000 on top of the purchase price for this home, it rented for less than what it rented for before the repairs.
Wow.
So it was just a train wreck through and through. And so the third lesson there is do your market research. Obvious, right? Obvious thing, but I didn't. I got a little cocky or sloppy on after hitting 3 singles on my homes, and so I ended up selling that house. Fortunately, Fort Worth, just appreciated, and I ended up losing probably $5,000 where I should have lost 20,000 or more on that home. And those lessons that I learned on that home were at the time expensive, but in the big picture, holy cow, totally cheap if I'm applying those lessons that I learned on these multi-million dollar properties.
No question. And you know what? I mean, maybe, and maybe I'm not accurate on here, but that might have been the catalyst to get you out of single family to the huge success you have now in multifamily. You got your nose blooded and you're like, screw this. I'm not doing single family. I'm going bigger. And, I don't know if that played a role at all, but I could see how that could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It did. I mean,
Okay.
that and apathy towards my full-time job. I mean, I'd gotten, you've mentioned, I've heard Tony Robbins talk about when you have a goal, make sure that once you accomplish, you have something else set up to achieve. And my goal was to make $100,000 at my full-time job in advertising before my 30th birthday. Well, I made it by age 28 or so. And then I became vice president. I was making $150K in base salary plus bonus. And I realized, well, now what? Became apathetic. I realized that
you got comfortable.
I had realized that wasn't really what I was trying to get. I needed something deeper. I needed something more meaningful. And so that really played the primary role for me leaving the advertising industry and going to real estate full time, because I wanted to do something more meaningful and have more flexibility with my time to make that happen.
Well, it's great that you had that realization, because a lot of people, doing that well at your age could become, again, very comfortable and then have regret because they didn't take action, because they didn't get outside of comfort. And so that's awesome. So let me ask you this: what advice, knowing what you know now and the success that you have, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self, knowing what you know now?
Ultimately, it's the same advice that I give anyone who asks, how did you scale your company, or how can I scale my company to a level that creates exponential growth? And if I were to give that advice that I'm about to give to my 20-year-old self, then I would have been even farther ahead in the, towards accomplishing, the goals that I have for myself. So the advice is as follows. There's 3 steps to take your business to another level, regardless of if it's real estate or if you're have a side gig selling something on Amazon or whatever it is. There's 3 steps to take your business to another level. And the first step is to identify the skill sets that are required for your business to thrive at the highest level. Once you know what's required of your team to achieve at the highest level, then the second step is to identify which of those skill sets can you compete against anyone in the world against. So which skill set are you especially talented at? Once you identify that, then the third is to simply find team members to work on, to do those other skill sets that complement the one that you're really good at. And the thought process behind this is that when we do what we're especially talented at doing, then that's where we maximize the business results that we will achieve. And coincidentally, it also maximizes, in my opinion, or based on my experience, the fulfillment that we get out of the process, because we're doing what we're especially talented at doing. So when the challenging part of this, there's a couple challenging parts. One is knowing what we're especially talented at doing within the realm of what's required for that business. So first, I think the easy part is identifying what skill sets, the first step, what skill sets are required for success within the business, because that's just reading books. That's talking to people, that's listening to your podcast. Mm-hmm. The challenging part is the second part for some people, and that's self-reflection. Okay, out of all these skill sets, what am I the best at? What am I world class at? Or what should I be world class at based on my talents that I have and that I can hone? And then the third that might be challenging, but this just is a test of resourcefulness, is finding other team members, whether they're business partners that you joint venture with or they're vendors that you hire, finding the right team members to complement your strength.
That are extraordinarily skilled at where you might need help. Yeah, I think that's probably, in my opinion, the most challenging piece of that is finding people that you align with, that you are compatible with, that are exceptional where you're not. That's fantastic advice, Joe. I've not heard it articulated like that. In my live event, just this last week, I talked about, aligning yourself. Same conversation, just coined differently. Play to your strengths and hire or partner for your weaknesses, and you'll go further faster.
Yep.
So absolutely, we are in complete agreement on that, and that's the key. That's one of the biggest keys to success. So. Fantastic advice. Now, let me ask you this. Are there any things that you've had to cut out of your life to get where you are right now?
That's a good question. Let me think about that. I have cut out of my life.
You have a family, right? You're married?
I do. I got a wife. We got married this past summer. She's the love of my life. Awesome. Yeah, Colleen.
Awesome.
Nothing comes. I can't think. I wish. I'm going to think about that more. And if something comes up, I'll mention it on during our conversation. But I can't think of something. I've always been laser focused.
Okay. Well, see, and that's an incredible quality that a lot of people don't have. They get caught up in distraction, email, Facebook, Netflix, whatever, and focus is so. Well, that's.
I mean, I get obsessive about stuff, and when I'm in, I'm all in, and I put all my effort towards that. So perhaps if that was an evolution of my personality, then I would have had to cut some things out. But it is something that has always been with me on anything I've done from as long as I can remember. So when I'm in it, I'm in it.
Do you know what your drivers are? I mean, do you know why you're so focused and why you push so hard? Do you know what's doing it? What is it?
Yeah, I mean, going back to when you were talking about us hanging out and meeting, seeing each other at the seminar, at the Unleash Power Within, they talk about what are 6 human needs, what are the ones driving you, what are the top 2, and I've made a conscious effort to have growth and contribution love/connection and contribution as being my 2 driving needs. And because of that, I have shifted my mindset towards making sure that what I do contributes to others, knowing that, in the long run, we're all going to benefit. Some specific things that are driving me, I mean, with all of my business dealings, there's either a direct or indirect philanthropic component to them. From a direct standpoint, as you've mentioned, my books, all the profits are donated to Junior Achievement to help underserved kids in communities. I've done a scholarship for the past 5-6 years for Texas Tech students to go to New York City to shadow different advertising agencies.
That's beautiful, man.
All sorts of stuff. And then on the indirect stuff, when we close on a deal, we don't have a component that automatically donates X amount of dollars to a certain charity. However, I do donate personally from profits I make on deals to, say, Junior Achievement. I mean, I just committed to donating $30,000 to Junior Achievement this year, and I've got some other stuff too that I'm doing. So
Fantastic.
that is when I have others top of mind and I'm focused on the contribution, then I know that everything will take care of itself.
Always does. If you're thinking outside of yourself, you're focused outwardly instead of inwardly, frankly, your success in anything is assured, and your happiness is assured. Whatever you give, you receive. And no, that's awesome to hear you say that. Do you have any morning rituals that when you get going, do you have any routines that you found have contributed to your success?
Yeah, three things. One is, and I haven't missed this for 5-6 years, and that is I drink a liter of water with a scoop of wheatgrass every single morning. Wow. 1 liter of water with 1 scoop of wheatgrass every morning. The second thing is I have a daily journal. I started that about 2.5 years ago. I've missed approximately 30 days total over 2.5 years. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to open up that where it's just a Word document. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. I put the day's date and then bullet point, whatever I want to say. That's what I write. Sometimes it's a bullet point and that's it. Sometimes it's a recap of what I was doing that day. Sometimes it's thoughts. Sometimes it's me slamming my fingers on the keyboard because I'm pissed off about something, which takes a lot to get me upset. So it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes it's there. Mm-hmm. And it's incredible to see what has been what I was thinking a year ago, what I was working on, where I was at, what my mindset was, and how that's evolved, or how I have not improved in certain areas. And it's a wake-up call. For example, I believe I am about 8 pounds overweight, what I should be. And I was reading my journal last week, and I realized that I was the same weight a year ago. I was like, okay, clearly what I've been doing over last year didn't work. So now, fortunately, my wife is a personal trainer. So now she's kicking my butt into gear Monday, Wednesday, Friday in our kind of gym basement that we've got at our house. And that's what we do. And that's going to be very effective. I guarantee that.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. I want to circle back to something you just said because people might be confused. We've both experienced Tony Robbins. Was that your first event, by the way?
No, second.
Oh, second. Okay. Well, anyway, Tony talks about every human being having 6 basic human needs, not desires, needs. And those needs are significance, the need to feel important, certainty, which is kind of equates to comfort, the need to feel, to know the ceiling's not going to cave in, certainty. And then because God's got a sense of humor, uncertainty. People need, a human need is surprise and change and things like that. And then love and connection is a human need. Growth is a human need. Every human needs to feel that like they're growing, and then contribution is a human need. And when many people self-actualize and they look at these 6 human needs, they discover that typically 1 or 2 of the top ones are certainty or comfort, and that manifests in many different ways: overeating, smoking, sticking with stories to soften where you are and stay in comfort and not push yourself. And then the need for significance. Those are typically near the top of many people's lists. And when they really look inwardly, they realize what needs to be on the top, like you and I both did, Joe, is that, love, of course, needs to be near the top, or number 1. To growth needs to be near the top, and contributing beyond yourself needs to be near the top. So anyway, I wanted to share that so my listeners understood where that conversation came from. But why do you think most people fail to succeed, Joe? What do you think in this business or any business? What do you think it is that they either don't take action, or if they take action, they give up? Why do you think that is?
That's an easy answer. I'll give it 1 second just to complete the thought on my morning routines, because I said I had 3. I had 3, and I mentioned 2 in case someone's wondering. The third is,
let's finish that.
The third is that I read every day. I read something every day. So I've got tons of books. Anytime someone recommends a book, I buy it on Amazon, and then I put it on my shelf, and then I've got a shelf that's dedicated towards books I'm reading, or no, I've read this year. That way I have a sense of accomplishment for the books after I read them, because I can see, my wall of of books I've read.
That is huge. Let me just interject something, guys. The goal, as evidenced by my own personal story, if you've heard mine, the goal is never enough to keep you happy. Progress equals happiness. I love that idea. Actually, I'm going to steal that idea of taking the books that you finish and putting them somewhere so you can celebrate the progress, because that's such a critical component. Anyway, I cut you off. Please continue your thoughts. Sorry.
And that is something I discovered this year, Rod, because I read a bunch of books, but it's like, I wanted that sense of accomplishment, and I tried to document in Word documents. That wasn't working. Now just dedicated bookshelf, super easy. And it's a great feeling. You want to keep reading because you want to add to that bookshelf section.
Love it. I mean, I've got thousands of books. Literally, I could turn the camera here because we're videoing this as well as audio. And I mean, you could see I've got thousands of books here. And I love incorporating that, because progress equals happiness, my friends. I don't care what it is. And I want to add something to your journaling comment. I tell my coaching students to also journal magic moments. And I did this with my children, and I wish I'd have done it less intermittently than I did, but I came across some of my old journals where I just journaled things that they did that were just, made me tear up or laugh or whatever. And my daughter's 26 or 28 now. My son is 22. And we found those journals about 6 months ago, and we went through them. And I mean, we all teared up and we laughed. It's just hilarious. So guys, those of you listening with kids, give yourself that gift, please. Or even, like if you're just in a relationship, capture magic moments when you journal. It takes 2 minutes a day, or even if you just do it once a week, because two things will happen. One, you'll forget otherwise. But more importantly, if you take the time to do this, life is about magic moments, and it'll prompt you to create more. And to think of more. How can you shake up your spouse's life? How can you shake up your children's lives and do something magical? So give yourself that gift. Love your morning routine, brother. The reading, the journaling. Hal Elrod's got that book, The Miracle Morning, and those are two of the components he talks about. He talks about exercise, journaling, meditation, and reading. And by the way, that's a great book. I highly recommend The Miracle Morning from Hal Elrod. Awesome book.
And and there's actually one more that I forgot that I do every day, and that is I have a actual 5-star notebook next to my bed. As soon as I wake up, the very first thing I do is I write down, I am a strong, confident, successful, and handsome real estate billionaire entrepreneur. I write that 15 times. I've been doing that for about 8 months now. Probably missed 10 days or so. And that's something that I picked up just for many different reasons.
Anything you put the words I am in front of becomes an identity statement. And there's no greater power in the human psyche than the need to remain consistent with how we identify ourselves. I'll tell you mine. I've memorized it because I've incanted it so many times. I, Rod Khleif, am a magnificent, amazing, passionate gift from God. I'm an incredible father, inspiring leader, loving billionaire, and amazing husband that puts smiles on the faces of children, inspires others to excellence, and rocks the world. And I've said that 1,000 times. I've incanted it while I run. If you go down to my exercise facility down below us here, I've got, I am a business genius. I am health and energy. I am focus and determination. I'm an amazing husband. I'm helping thousands of people. I have all these Vistaprint signs that I've had printed. And it's not because, I'm bragging like that business genius one. It's what I want to embody, because whatever you put I am in front of, again, is an identity statement. I love that, brother. Thank you for sharing that, because I don't know that I've ever discussed that on this podcast. Awesome. So what's next for you, buddy?
Well, and so to answer your question, why people fail.
I get ahead.
The answer is lack of resourcefulness, and that's the answer for sure. And could you elaborate on that? Yeah.
That's not the answer I was expecting. So I was going to think fear, limiting beliefs, whatever. Please expand on that.
I mean, anything is possible if it's been done before, and some things are possible that haven't been done before. Therefore, in order to accomplish something, if we look to see how others have done it, then it's likely we can accomplish that or something similar to that. Therefore, when people fail, it's not because it's not possible. It's because it wasn't possible for them based on the skill sets that they had, or the lack of research that they did, or the lack of execution. And ultimately, all of that is not being resourceful enough to get what you need to get in order to accomplish what you want to accomplish.
And it's all out there. You just have to go get it. You just have to find it. I love that answer, brother. That's a great answer. I know, by the way, I don't want to forget, I know you've got an awesome event coming up in February. Let me give it a shout out. Can you, and by the way, guys, I don't typically talk about events because, this isn't about promotion, but what I love about Joe's event is there's nothing being sold there. This is pure education. So please tell my listeners about it.
Sure. Yeah, it's called besteverconference.com, that's the URL, besteverconference.com. It's the best real estate investing advice ever conference. Very consistent branding with my podcast, the best real estate investing advice ever show.
That's a familiar name.
Yeah. And it is for investors who have gotten some deals under their belt. It's not necessarily for beginners. Okay. It's for people who are looking to grow their real estate investing business. And we talk about multifamily. We talk about investing in parking lots. We talk about investing in office, retail, industrial.
You had my friend Kevin Bupp on there for mobile home parks. The last one. So cross-denominational, cross-sector, whatever you want to learn, he's going to cover it. I love it. And this is when in Denver?
It's February 9th and 10th in Denver, and it's besteverconference.com. It would likely sell out in the next week or so.
It may be sold out when this airs, but if so, sorry guys, but I want to mention it because the fact that it's not a sell-a-thon, as many of these things are. Like I've got my live event coming up in April. I just had the one in Tampa. It was sold out with a huge waiting list, and I've got one in April 6th, 7th, and 8th in LA. And again, no outside speakers selling anything. It's just me training for 3 days, and that's the kind of stuff I like to go to. It's always so frustrating when you go and it's one sale after another. And, but awesome, brother. And guys, check out his podcast. Please, Best Ever Real Estate is what it's called, right?
Yeah, it's a mouthful. Best Real Estate Investing Advice Ever show. And for anyone who wants info on investing in apartments, then you can just email info@joefairless.com, and I've got a free resources guide that I can get you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for adding value, brother. We could have gone granular on multifamily investing, but I knew you had bigger things that you could add value with, more mindset and just the mechanical stuff. We do plenty of interviews about the mechanical stuff, and I wanted people to really hear who you are, and I really appreciate you being on the show, my friend.
Grateful to catch up and looking forward to staying in touch and talking again soon.
Likewise, brother. All right, take care. See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please take a minute to visit iTunes and leave your comments. For more resources or to connect with us further, please visit our website at rodkhleif.com. Tune in next week for our next show.